Alright, so I figured I'll make a video on talking about choosing your battles when it comes to rust repair. Probably the most difficult part of doing a rust repair project is figuring is the decision making process. So I'm going to walk you guys through this a little bit and what I'm talking about, because what a lot of guys do is they'll go out and buy every patch panel you can buy and replace, whatever to the seam, or to, like, they'll replace this whole rail. And really, it's completely unnecessary most of the time. There's times when, you're just going to get your budget so high that you're never, you're going to be so expensive that, something like this, you could literally, I could have $5,000 or $6,000 easily in just metalwork panels. Or more. So would it be worth it? No. The thing is, no, it wouldn't. So the whole idea is that you figure out what stuff that you can make that isn't too, and sometimes it'll be a decision-making process. So, like, for instance, these back corners, okay, they're $158 or something like that. Just for the bottom 8 inches. When you see later, I'm going to make those, and because it's too expensive, that's a lot. So that's $300. I need both sides. So that's more than $300 right there. This piece here, of course, I bought it because it's, look at it. So, that's one, it'd be very difficult to make, and it's very cheap. So that's an easy decision to make, to buy that. So when it's like $50 or something like that for a patch panel, and it's one that's more difficult to make, then it's not a tough decision. I think the thing's like $60 or something like that. These rockers are super cheap, because they're always bad, and they're Clocker home. They're not, the best quality metal. So, they're kind of like, it's adequate. It does the job. It fits. Who cares from there? Like on my decision making, I could have went with Wolfsburg West. Has these jack points, and they're better. They're definitely better. They're straighter than these. These things are, look at it. Look at the bends on there. They're not very good quality, but as far as the metal being thick, they're fine. So I'm going to do the extra work it's going to take to straighten these out a little bit to save some money. So that adds up, saves me probably $100 by buying these versus the Wolfsburg West ones. And then this time, and because a lot of the stuff I'll get, what I'll do is and you guys can do the same thing. You can call Eddie and Dave's Garage. Talk to Eddie himself. Don't go on his website. It's called vintagebus.com. You can go there and then find his phone number, call him. And if you need a large amount of stuff or whatever, he will give you a special deal if you buy a certain amount of volume, because he can get Wolfsburg West. He can get, these are from England. I forget the name of them. Maybe it says it on there. What does that say? Yeah, Autocraft. Yep. So they're from England. He has an account with them. He has an account with all the places except for he doesn't have access to these. So in this case, I ended up ordering, my $100 or more than $100 worth of stuff from Sip One because they have this stuff. So there's times when I'm just saying your decision making is trying to figure out that stuff. So if you want to get a good deal on metal though, or anything, any parts, he has MP, he has he can get MP, he can get almost any brand, except for I don't think he can get the orange ones. So he has all that. He can get all those things. He can get Gerson, he can get metal, he can get all that stuff, and then you can make a package deal and have it shipped out, and it can be quite a bit less if you go through him than if you just go to each one of these places, or if you go to a websites and get orders. So keep that in mind. Give them a shot, call them. I've known the guy for years, and that's where I got most of this stuff here. So it's decision making, though. What I'm getting back to is, the bottoms of this rocker. You may know that that's bad. We know that behind it there's an inner rocker, which is right here. These are bad, and they're like, I think $30, $29, and so that's got to get replaced. So can I make this? Yes, I could make this, but it's only $30. Okay, so decision, pretty easy. Buy it, already made. This thing here, not expensive. I think they're $45. Decision, easy. That'd be very difficult to make with these little things to get it to line up. The dog legs. Now that was a tough decision. I have brand new dog legs in these boxes here. Okay, you look at these. I mean, I've seen ones that were just like totally wasted. Then it's like, well, can you make them? Yes, you can. You can make them. Can you repair these? Yes, I could repair these. I've actually done ones in this condition or worse and actually fixed them. And these are holes all the way through. I've actually opened this up, made a new panel for this. All you do is, it's just a piece of metal that bends up. Lay it on top of this one, pound it down, and add it to it. And I could make that. But the amount of time when it comes down to making this part, it's a little bit slow. Because what I do is I'll take a little piece of metal and I'll bend this angle right here, and I'll run it down and I go around and make that shape. Then I do a lot of pie cutting. If you've watched the Mustang fabrication, it'll show you a little bit about how I do that. And I'll stack metal together and I'll make this whole thing. Then it'll look perfect. It won't rust again, But, got two of them. I got a lot of stuff to do on this thing. Had to make the decision on it. Is it worth the the thing is, they're $235 now a piece, is what I thought they were $260. They're $235 a piece. And I'm going, and is it harder for me to replace that than it is to repair it? How much time is it going to save me to actually replace it versus repairing it? Those are decisions. Those are all things that you have to decide for yourself when you're doing your metalwork. You can make anything. Anything can be made. But, when it comes down to, making, so you're going to see some stuff get made. I'm definitely going to do some making of panels. Now, I had this thing here. So I got one coming from Gerson. Because I had to get some other stuff from Gerson. So I thought, well, these are $30 for this little piece right here. It's like $30. Fairly inexpensive. It takes a little bit of time to make it. I just said, you know what? Okay, I'm just going to buy it because it's not that easy to make. It's not that hard, but it's not that easy, and it's fairly cheap to just buy it already made. So now, when it comes to things like the lower nose, now that's $175 for a piece of metal that goes from right here down all the way to here. Do I need the whole piece of metal? Obviously, there's down here, there's rust coming through from the inside, so it's going to have to be cut up to about right here. But look at the nose portion; it's really probably not that bad. I can actually make that. I can make this. Okay, so decision was to go ahead and not buy that piece. So I'm going to actually make that. I've made those many times before. I've made that lower nose piece. So you'll be seeing that made. So again, up here, this piece here is like, I think $165 to go from here around up here, and then it, basically the windshield repair section. That's a lot of money. So You add up that, you add up 175 for that, you add up, you know, you're talking about just for this piece, the back two corners, you were talking about $1,000, you know, where it starts to add up real quick. Can you make this? Yes, you can. Is it hard to make? Not really. It's actually not that hard. It looks more difficult than it is. The only thing that I run into on these that it would be nice to replace is sometimes between this piece of metal and that one, rust can occur again. And, you know, it's just, I don't know, it's just one of those areas that they have problems with. So again, on these doors, you know, you know, when it's a $50 decision, you know, or less, sometimes it's easier just to buy it. I've made, I don't know how many of these lower doors, you know, I've made from here down many times. It's not hard to do, but they have the Autocraft ones for, I think it was less than 50 bucks. It was 45 bucks or something like that. And I needed to get some stuff from Sip One because I ordered those other things, and I thought, you know what, you know, I had to make a decision. I need to replace the inner panel, and I need to replace the lower panel. And is it going to save me some time? Yes, it will. It will save me quite a bit of time. So I had to make a decision, you know, to replace, you know, to go ahead and buy the replacement panel. Do you need them? No. You could make this panel, no problem. It wouldn't be that hard to do, but it'll probably save me, you know, a few man hours. So, you know, I don't want to be working on this thing for, you know, a year or anything like that. I used to do these buses like this and about this condition in about 4 months. And I have another business that I do too. So if you think that that's crazy, it's really not that bad. It's not as hard as it is. People think it is. So let's look at the front floor, some of the other things. So this lower piece here, this has to get done. Doesn't come with anything. Has to get done every single bus. When I have a bulkhead, I make that piece. They actually have a piece that you can buy that goes up to right here. It's not cheap, but you know, some guys, maybe that's a little harder to make for them. But I just roll it up. I lay the metal. I'll cut off all the bad stuff. I'll lay the metal over the other metal, and I'll you know, overlay it and Bondo a little bit to finish, and you'll never see it. It's so, you know, that's not hard for me to do. Do I need to buy that panel? No, not at all. I can make that one really easy. It doesn't take me any time. I just use my sheet metal bender. If you're going to do any of this stuff, you really should just buy one of those cheap sheet metal benders from Harbor Freight. Or not the bender, but the bender brake thing. And I'm just going to make a piece for that. It'll go on before the floors, and it'll look perfect when it's done. So, the front floors. A lot of people go and they cut the front floors out. And then they go through and they go, oh, well, I got to cut it all everywhere at the seam. Well, you got to look at it a little bit more carefully than that. Decision making is the biggest, most important thing with rust repair. You know, this one here, the corner here is not gone. It looks like somebody actually replaced it. Usually, I have to do something with that when I do these floors. But even the floor edges. But if you look here, even this lip is in pretty good shape. It's not bad. So, I mean, I'm going to decide what I'm going to do with this. Okay, I've done it before where I've actually cut the whole thing out and replace the whole thing. And I've done it before where I've actually set the floor. I actually cut to right here, okay, and set the new floor over the old, over that other edge with that little edge there, and double stack the metal, and you couldn't even see it when I was done. In fact, nobody would even know that I did it that way. Other than if you just looked really close, you could see the double stack metal, even though I seam sealed the whole top edge so you couldn't see it. So, how am I going to do this one? I'm not sure yet. You know, it's all that stuff. I'm still in that decision-making mode, and you know, that's where, you got to make those decisions and figure out what to do. So like this right here, these are always bad, okay? If you have a bad cargo floor, you're going to have, your seat stand's going to be bad, at least the bottom 6 inches of it. You know, can you make that? Absolutely, you can make it. Can you buy the whole seat stand? Yeah, you can buy the whole seat stand, but I'm going to tell you, it's going to be a lot more work to replace that whole seat stand than it is to replace that, to make that bottom 6 inches, you know, 4 to 6 inches there, and even repair some of these things. So this will get cut out, and I'm just going to put another piece of metal in there. The rust that's there is pitted, but it's actually pretty solid still. So I'm going to remove everything I can. May have to do some section in here, do a repair, and then I'm not going to replace the seat stands. They are expensive. So that's just like, I'm trying to just give you guys, you know, a heads up on, you know, how you decide to figure out what to do. And each piece, you should be making a decision on where to cut it. You know, some guys will, oh, well, I got the whole floor, so I'll replace the whole floor. You know, first of all, does this look like pretty nice right here around this thing? It's like perfect. So this particular section around here does not need to be replaced. You know, so what I can do is easily, I can cut the brand new floor, cut this out, you know, like right here, and I can lay the new floor over the old in this area, and I could cut that and then, you know, tack weld around here and leave this piece here and save myself a whole lot of time. So, you know, when you're doing your, say, you're doing your floor edges, let's just look at that. So when you're doing your floor edges, say, for instance, guy, you know, the whole panel goes over to about right here, we're near the steering column. I can't remember exactly where, but right here. So a lot of guys will see that it goes straight up to there, and they'll cut straight through that, through the rail, when their rail is perfect, and then they'll have to line it up, and then they'll put together, and your clutch isn't going to work right, and you got to take it out 2 or 3 times. You know, it's easier to cut that straight across right here and work around the clutch if that part of your floor is good. So, you know, like I said, those patch panels are not made for you to cut exactly where the patch panel is. You use the portion of the patch panel that you need to make the metal you need. So, do I like to buy those patch panels? Yeah, I like to buy them. I've done this whole floor. I actually made one once. And, you know, I did it with several pieces, and it was a bit of work, you know, and you know, I ended up putting a smooth floor in. I didn't even put the ribs in it or anything, but I did it that way, and it, you know, I was like, you know, next time I'm going to buy one because it's just a little easier, you know. So it's just, putting those floors in is really, it takes me, putting the floor in itself doesn't take me very long. It's all this work right here, around here, behind here, because water usually goes down inside here behind this and makes that metal really thin, and you know, you end up having holes there by the time you get that off. And what's underneath that, you know, there's a hole underneath there, there's a whole another panel, there's other stuff under there, and usually what you end up with when you take that floor out, you end up with other things that you're going to be replacing, and those things take me a lot of time. The actual floor itself takes me, like, I think, you know, it's only a few hours work, you know, and I can do it in less than a day. So it's like I said, you know, and getting, you know, how hard is it to get the clutch pedal and the brake pedal off? You know, sometimes you go to take those off and it's like, oh God, that takes you, you know, 3 hours or something. So the actual floor itself isn't hard to do. It's all the other stuff around it. So anyway, but, you know, guys, with these too, you know, like this one here doesn't have any rust here, which was really amazing. I was really surprised that it didn't have any rust around the windows, because usually you have rust holes going through here, and you can buy that patch panel. And like I said, if it's cheap, you can maybe buy it and benefit from it. But when it's like, you know, a lot, kind of expensive, you know, like I can just make that piece. So you have to figure out, You know, figuring all that stuff out is your number one thing, because literally you can go into like, you know, a ridiculous budget really quick because you're buying all those patch panels, and they are really, really high dollar. You know, I mean, I can buy a quarter panel for my Nova for $169, and there's a lot more bends. This whole corner right here is, you know, $260, and it's just an outer skin. It's not even there's nothing to it. You know, I can buy the quarter panel with the inner for $169 for my Nova. You know, for this thing, you know, the stuff's like twice as much money. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't get that part. I don't understand it. You know, like these corners here are pretty. These corners like this are pretty much an easy decision. You're going to need to buy this. It's really hard to make. So, you know, it can be made, but it's going to take so much time that, you know, I think these are about $50. Kind of expensive for that. But in the battery tray, again, at Woodford West, $55. I think I paid $30. And this is actually a good quality one. This is 35 maybe. I don't know what it was. This little thing, I mean, these used to be like free with, you know, with a case of beer or something. But they used to be really cheap, but now they're not. You know, some of that stuff's gone up. They used to be like $12, I think is what I used to pay for them. The battery trays I used to pay $13.99 or something like that. Now I'm paying $30. You know, so it's all the stuff's gone way up in price. Kind of disappointing. But yeah, like I said, go if you really want to deal on your metal, check with Eddie and Dave's Garage, or anything. If you just want a whole bunch of parts, he has used and new, and he's a real fair guy. If he can't beat it, then, you know, he'll just tell you straight out, you know, I can't beat that price, but most of the time he can. Just so you know, it's an little inside thing I'm getting you guys in on. So the other thing I'm doing is these door bottoms. Last time I didn't make one of these, but if you look here, it's kind of compounded. It's narrow here, goes to a wide section, comes back to a narrow. A little hard to make, and I think these were $20 this time. So I thought, you know what, I'm just gonna buy these. They don't solve the whole problem, but you know, I'm gonna give this one a shot and see if I can get it to, maybe it'll make it a little bit easier to do. I'm not sure. I'll find out when I get the door off. One of the big mistakes I see guys make is they take the doors off. You need the doors on to line up your dog legs. So, you know, I always leave them on. If they're lined up, like right now, this door is pretty well lined up. I'll leave it on until after the dog leg's on, you know, and then I'll pull the door off, and then I'll do my door repairs, and I'll put the door back on. So, you know, it's all method. It's all stuff like, you know, what do you do first? What do you do second? What do you do third? You know, that stuff is, you look at the metal, how it's stacked. You know, how am I going to line this panel up? You know, how am I going to get it in the same place? You know, like for instance, like this right here, like these things, you don't just want to go in and just whack them all off. You know, if I just whacked all these off, I would have a heck of a time trying to line up the new one, because I'm going to cut it. Then I'd have to put the whole new thing in. Oh my God, I couldn't imagine doing that with all that crap going through it. So what I'll do is I'll clamp on the inner rocker on here, and then I'll cut them one at a time. I'll cut it off, cut my new piece, put it on, you know, tack it. Then I'll clamp on that one. Then I'll use that one to line up this one, cut it off, you know, put the new piece on, tack it in place, then weld them all up, and I'm done. So you have to think about how, when you're taking it apart, how you're going to put it back together. So just cutting away is not a good idea. You want to think about, okay, do I need this to line up the next panel? And because I've done all this before, I already know exactly how to do it. You know, I already know that when I get done stacking all that together, it's all going to fit. It's going to be right. Getting that length is going to be a little bit tough, but not too bad, because it all butts up against this inner rocker. So, and then the cargo doors, when I do those, that's all going to get done at the same time. So I kind of have to, you know, tack them in place, leave the cargo doors up again. You know, don't take them off the hinge until after I've got them lined up, you know, after I've done the metal work to them, and then I'll take them off the hinge. Then I'll fix all this stuff and take them off and do this stuff and do the final repairs to them or whatever, and then I'll put them back on. So you got to kind of think about what it's like playing chess. You know, you have to think 3 or 4 or 5, 6, 7 moves ahead when you're doing it, because you don't want to just, you know, take something apart. So that's the hardest and slowest part. It really is. The rest of it to me is easy. I mean, that's not hard to me at all. It's labor intensive, but it's not, you know, like difficult once you realize what you got to do. So anyway, that's a little bit about, you know, choosing your battles. You know, you figure out what things you can fix, what things you can't fix, and then you know, do what you can do and make it work. And, you know, learn from some of these videos. These things are going to be really good for you, all you guys trying to learn how to do this stuff. It's really not that bad. It's really not as hard as people think. It really isn't. It just takes a lot of time. Well, people can make it much harder because they can go and they say, oh, you know, you need to cut to the seam, you need to do all this stuff. You know, hey, when you're done, if it looks good and it's painted, it looks nice, who the hell cares? All the rest of that stuff is just bragging rights. And I don't give a crap about that anymore. I'm done with all that stuff. So anyway, I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Please like, share, and subscribe. And thanks for watching. Make sure you make those comments.